The wound is the place where the light enters you. In just 10 words, the 13th century mystic poet Rumi offers a truth that resonates across centuries, languages, and faiths. At a time when the world feels increasingly divided by ideology, identity, and fear, his words are like a balm. They remind us that even in our deepest suffering, there is a doorway to something greater. But how can a man who lived over 800 years ago speak so clearly to the pain of our modern, fragmented world? Today, we explore the healing power of Rumi's poetry, how his verses can reconnect us with ourselves, with each other, and with something eternal. Welcome to The Unfolding Journey, a channel where ancient wisdom meets modern reflection. Here, we explore the ideas, stories, and spiritual teachings that help us navigate life with depth and clarity. If you're someone who seeks meaning beneath the surface, who senses that the human experience is more than headlines and algorithms, you're in the right place. Today's journey takes us into the heart of Rumi's poetry, and how his words offer not just beauty, but healing. We live in an age of incredible technological advancement and global connection. Yet paradoxically, we've never been more divided or more anxious. Depression, loneliness, and burnout are on the rise. Societies are polarized. The pace of life is relentless, leaving little room for introspection or meaning. Our world is fast, distracted, and often superficial. We scroll endlessly but rarely pause. We talk more but connect less. In such a world, the soul, the quiet inner voice of depth, longing, and love, can easily be drowned out. And that's where Rumi enters, not as a scholar or philosopher, but as a mystic, a lover of truth, a seeker of the divine. His poetry doesn't demand attention, it invites presence. It doesn't offer answers, it opens questions. Rumi doesn't just speak to us, he speaks for us, echoing our longing for unity, for stillness, and for love. Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Rumi was born in 1207 in what is now Afghanistan and later settled in Konya, in present-day Turkey. He was a scholar, a theologian, and eventually a mystic. But his transformation began when he met Shams of Tabriz, a wandering dervish whose radical presence shook Rumi to his core. Their friendship, intense, ecstatic, and often misunderstood, became the catalyst for Rumi's poetic awakening. When Shams mysteriously disappeared and was likely killed, Rumi's heartbreak poured out his verse. But his grief became a gateway, not to despair, but to divine love. Over the next decades, he composed thousands of verses, primarily in Persian, which form the Masnavi and Divani Shams. These works are now among the most widely read spiritual texts in the world. What makes Rumi unique isn't just his mastery of language. It's his unwavering devotion to love as the path to God, to healing, and to wholeness. Rumi once wrote, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." He didn't write these lines from comfort or detachment. He wrote them from the raw center of grief. His poetry is not academic. It is emotional alchemy. It takes sorrow and spins it into beauty. It takes longing and turns it into sacred fire. In a world fragmented by trauma, personal and collective, Rumi's poetry is a kind of medicine. Not the quick-fix kind, but the deep, soulful kind. It invites us to feel what we've suppressed, to sit with what hurts, and to remember that we are not broken, we are becoming. His words speak to those struggling with anxiety, heartbreak, identity, and disconnection. Try not to resist the changes that come your way. Instead, let life live through you. Or, you were born with wings. Why prefer to crawl through life? These aren't just pretty quotes for Instagram. They are spiritual tools. When contemplated deeply, they can shift our inner world. At the core of Rumi's vision is unity. Not sameness, but a divine interconnectedness beneath our surface differences. He saw beyond religion, culture, and ego. His message was universal, because he spoke from the level of the soul. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. That single verse has healed rifts in friendships, soothed religious divisions, and awakened seekers of every faith. Rumi believed that beneath our opinions and identities, we are one. Not metaphorically, but spiritually. In today's polarized world, this message is not just poetic, it's urgent. When our systems and structures divide us, Rumi's poetry reminds us of the sacred thread that connects us. He wasn't interested in dogma. He was interested in love. And for Rumi, love wasn't an emotion. It was the substance of the universe. Rumi's poetry doesn't offer comfort without challenge. He was also a poet of transformation. His words often feel like a mirror, showing us the places we hide from ourselves. He wrote, Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? And be like a tree and let the dead leaves drop. In a world addicted to distraction, his poetry demands presence. In a culture afraid of stillness, he invites us into silence. And in a society obsessed with appearance, he speaks directly to the soul. Rumi reminds us that healing isn't passive. It's a fire that burns away what no longer serves us. He teaches that pain is not the enemy, but the teacher. That surrender is not weakness, but strength. And that love, real love, destroys the ego to reveal the divine. Rumi's popularity has exploded in recent decades. He's one of the most quoted poets in the West, and his verses are found everywhere, from yoga studios to spiritual retreats. But too often, his message is diluted, treated as a kind of poetic decoration rather than a radical spiritual call. To truly engage with Rumi is to embark on a journey of self-discovery. His poems are doorways to inner landscapes we rarely visit. They aren't meant to be skimmed, they're meant to be lived. Here are 3 ways to engage with Rumi in your own healing journey. 1. Read slowly, read soulfully. Don't consume Rumi like content. Sit with a single verse. Let it echo. Let it work on you. His poetry reveals more the slower you go. 2. Journal your reflections. Write down how a poem makes you feel. What does it awaken in you? What part of your life is being touched or challenged? 3. Speak his words out loud. There is power in the spoken word. Reading Rumi aloud gives the poetry breath. It becomes embodied, not just intellectual. At the heart of all this is something simple, but profound. Rumi gives us permission to feel again, to be vulnerable, to be uncertain, to be human. In a culture that prizes perfection, he invites us into our imperfections. In a world of branding and performance, he invites us into authenticity. And in an age of noise, he whispers, "Silence is the language of God, all else is poor translation." His poems are reminders that no matter how fractured the world becomes, the soul remains whole. And when we reconnect with the soul, healing follows, not just personal healing, but collective healing. Rumi doesn't want us to worship his words. He wants us to live them, to love fiercely, to question bravely, to trust the process of becoming, and to remember that, in his words, you are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. In the chaos of modern life, Rumi's poetry is not an escape, it's a return. To presence, to soul, to love. If this video stirred something in you, if Rumi's words opened a doorway in your heart, then we invite you to join us here on the unfolding journey. Subscribe to the channel for more explorations of poetry, philosophy, and the spiritual wisdom that can guide us through this world. Drop your favorite Rumi quote in the comments, or tell us how his poetry has touched your life. This is a space for seekers, for thinkers, for lovers of beauty and truth. Let's unfold together. This is the unfolding journey. Until next time, keep wondering, keep feeling, and keep returning.